This first reading is from St. Teresa of Avila. Her book is called Interior Castle. It loosely inspired this set of sermons. It's very difficult to find part of hers it's very hard to excerpt anything out of her book, but anyway, here goes. The necessary thing here, she says, if we have this, we cannot fail to gain greatly. Nevertheless, the assault which the devils now make upon the soul in all kind of ways is terrible, and the soul suffers more than in the preceding mansions. For there it was deaf and dumb, or at least it could hear very little, so it offered less resistance, like one who to a great extent has lost hope of gaining victory. Here the understanding is keener, and the faculties are more alert, while the clash of arms and the noise of cannon are so loud that the soul cannot help hearing them. For here the devils once more show the soul these vipers, that is, the things of the world, and they pretend that earthly pleasures are almost eternal. They remind the soul of the esteem in which it is held in the world, of its friends and relatives, of the way in which its health will be endangered by penances, which the soul always wants to do when it first enters the mansion, and of the impediments of 1,000 other kinds. Oh, what confusion the devils bring about to the poor soul, and how in distress it is, not knowing if it ought to proceed further or to the room where it was before. Well, that was her poetry. Well, you can do that or whatever. That's her poetry. I'm coming to my poetry in a minute. This is D.H. Lawrence. I happen to know that I read this poem at the same course that I first used this chart. And I'll read some of my notes in here also. Those, D.H. Lawrence, those that go searching for love only make manifest their own lovelessness. And the loveless never find love, only the loving find love, and they never have to seek for it. Or you might say, those that go searching for significance only manifest their own insignificance. Only the significated ever find significance. The insignificant never find significance. Only the significated find significance, and they never have to search for it. Or you might say, only those that go searching for happiness. Those that go searching for happiness only make manifest their own unhappiness. And the unhappy never find happiness, only the happy find happiness, and they never have to search for it. So, thank you. This year I'm doing a series on the interior mansions. Whether you think you have a mansion or a shack, it doesn't make any difference, but it's the interior. And one of the things I learned in India is that the interior dimension and the exterior dimension are not necessarily directly connected. You can't just look at somebody's exterior and tell what their interior is like. So I'm concerned about, today we're focusing on interior mansions. And I did two, March and April, and the first one was I talked about silence, and the second one I talked about action before action. And the third room is a room that might be called union. And in the historic religious language, these were meditation, prayer, and contemplation. But that's if you want to go back to old religious language, but I don't want to do that. So, and I'm going to get to this chart in a minute, but I have to set the introduction for the chart, or just contemplate the chart. But here, this third room is organized like this. It's got comfortable chairs in it. And they're kind of in a circle like this, but on this wall is a long hallway. It's like it stretches forever. And wherever you sit in the room, you can see down the long, long hallway. Now, sometimes you just talk to your friend and you hope you don't have to look down the long hallway. But sometimes you see down the long hallway. And the long hallway is a magical kind of thing. It's like Walt Disney World on steroids. And all kinds of images come down there. Sometimes it's a beautiful sunset. And sometimes there's huge dragons. And sometimes the smell of the dragons wafts your way. That's what St. Teresa was trying to describe. Sometimes when you're sitting in your quiet thinking about the long-term future, dragons and devils and demons, all kinds of really scary stuff comes at you. So that's what this third room, and this third room is an important room because sometimes when you're sitting in this room, you decide to get the hell out of town and go back, past the first room, past the second room, and out of the mansion. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I'm talking about getting past the first two rooms. And the next three sermons in, June, July, and August. June, July, and August are the real rooms that I really am passionate about wanting to talk about. But you've got to get through these first three rooms or you'll never survive over there. But that's for the future. So, what I want to talk about in this third room is where you've understood how to sit with yourself and listen to the winds. And you've learned how to get through in the second room. You've learned how to see the future, see the past. You can function pretty well. And now what happens in this third room is you see, oh my goodness, I see what is really required if I'm going to be a human being on planet Earth. You see what the real cost is of relationships. You see what the real challenge is of being the self that is really you. And when you see that, the tendency is to want to escape. And it's important to understand these escapes. Ergo, the chart for today. So, this chart goes like this. In the center is the self. And life comes at every self from 4 directions. The future. The future, sometimes you see the future and you see what's really required of you. Sometimes you see real possibility, or you see disaster looming ahead. And there are 2 ways that you tend to escape from the future. There's the active way, that's in bold, that's panic, oh shit. And there is the passive way, that's floating. Oh, dee ho, I'll just hope that it doesn't come. I'll come back to all these in a minute. Then there's the past. Life comes at every individual through your past. All of human history and your own, all the stupid things you did when you were a kid. Oh my goodness, I hope nobody finds out about that. And you can either be cynical about the past, or you can tend to reduce it down and hope that it goes away. Then the vertical 2. Life comes at everyone through your current situation. At every single moment, you have a situation on your hands. That's called life. When you wake up and when you're asleep, you have a situation. And there's active and passive ways to get away from your current situation. And there is also in life what I call the profound depths of life. It's hard to know the poetry of that. St. Teresa would have said, that's God coming up from the deeps of life. Other people say that's just profound awe, mystery, and wonder. Or that song we sing about fire and fire mist. It's that. The numinous presence. There is in life some radical otherness that has a tendency to come get you. Now, I'm going to come back to each of those. I want to try to give an example of each one. And the art of this little exercise is, for yourself, think, how do I do each of these? But we'll see. But the point of this little chart is like this. At every moment, you, as a self, show up in a current situation with a future ahead of you, a past behind you, and the depths calling your name. And it's kind of like, you know, when you play Scrabble, you sit there and you have these 7 letters, and invariably, the worst thing to hear is, it's your turn. Oh, shit. I have no idea what to do with a Q, an F, a Z, and a P. You know? Or worse, 3 A's, 2 I's, and an E. Life perpetually is saying, it's your turn. It's your turn. And that is the way each of us live every single moment, finally. It's your turn. And if you're kind of asleep, you don't realize that it makes much difference what you do. Just stick a thing out there and hope that it works. But if you're an awake human being, like you and I, and you've lived through these first 2 rooms of this mansion and dealt with them somewhat responsibly, you realize, oh my goodness, it makes a difference what I do. And the more awake you are, the more aware you are of the significance of the human being that you are on planet Earth, the more treacherous these escapes become. And so I want to kind of highlight some of these. I want to kind of give you the flavor, and we'll see how long it takes. I can't do them all, but anyway, I have one for each. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on this chart, which you can either follow or not. I'm going to do the horizontal 2 first, and then I'm going to do the vertical 2. Yeah, so I'm going to do the past one first. So I'm working with a group, and we're trying to influence. We're trying to influence city council and to adopt solar power. And the cynical way to deal with the past, which is called harbored doubt. It's real easy, you see, to say, they have never done anything in the past, and they're not likely to do anything in the future, and therefore I'm not even going to go talk to them. So I don't want to go there. Now, since they've not done anything in the past, I don't have to do anything in the future. So you just keep pounding on the fact that in the past it never worked. Well, I know, but we have a whole new city council. We have a whole... well, no, it never worked in the past, and it's not going to work in the future. So that's an easy way to deal with the past. That's the active way, cynicism. The reductionist, the passive way of dealing with the past is you just forget about things. And if you forget about some things, then it makes dealing with the past a lot easier. I've been a part of an organization since 1964, and we have a long history. Our organization has a long history, and some of us are trying to recover that history and make it usable again. And I was at a meeting last month, and one guy said, well, we made a lot of mistakes back in the 70s, and so it just, let's just not worry about this. It was no good then. And I said, yeah, but were you doing the work? Were you following this up in the 80s and the 90s? Well, no, I lost track of things. Well, if you'd have followed in the 80s and 90s what happened in the 70s, you'd have seen why we did what we did. Oh, that's interesting. So one way to deal with the past is to just get cynical about it, and the other one is just forget about it. And then you don't have to deal with it. Now the future comes at every one of us. And one of the easy responses about the future is called panic. Oh shit! And one of the easy ways out of the future is on this chart is called passionate irrelevance. Now, the way this works is like these are LED bulbs. So one solution to the energy crisis and your climate change is, dang, we're going to put LED bulbs in. And you just become passionate about LED bulbs. Well, LED bulbs are important, but you can't reduce the future down to, dang, I put in LED bulbs, I'm done. I'm sorry. That's a good first step, but it's not. And people pick some little thing, and they're just, wait a minute. That's a good response, but it's inadequate. That's one of the panic. The other one, predetermined reaction. That is, I'm just going to do the same old thing. And the other way to kind of skip out the future is called floating. And one of the ways you float is you say, well, actually, I don't have to deal with this. Let somebody else. This is somebody else's real problem. So I'm just going to kind of get on my magic carpet and skim over the surface and let somebody else deal with it. So I don't know what I don't profess to know all of your escapes, but my point is here, each of us have active and passive ways to get out of dealing with the profound claim that the future and the past are making on our present state of being. Now I'm going to go down on the middle columns. So we'll start at the top and work to the bottom. So one of the ways to deal with the dilemmas of the current situation, the passive way, is to just hide. Play like part of the dilemma of the present just doesn't exist. Hide from it. The simplest way is don't watch the news. Decide what you're going to watch on television or what you're going to read. And just don't read books or watch TV shows that are talking about the real dilemmas of the 21st century. Just ignore them. Watch the Indianapolis 500. Oh, geez, that's next week. Put yourself in situations that you know will not put any real demand on you. That's a way to hide from the greatness of the possibilities that you have in the present. And my point here is, each one of us, the future is counting on each one of us to make a highly significant contribution to the shape of the future. But if you are closing your eyes to the situation, you're unequipped to make a creative response from your perspective. Now, you can't make my response because you're not me. You don't have my skills. You don't have my past. But you can make your response and I'll make mine. And the active way of escaping the current situation, I call procrastination. And you'll see the way this chart works. So there's the big title, procrastination. Then I tried to think of some little 2-point ways to call procrastination. The rules had to be 2 words, and I couldn't use the same word twice anywhere on the chart. So that limits me a bit. Okay, but clever untimeliness. That is self-consciously showing up just a little bit too late. Oh my goodness. You guys have already got the chairs set up. Well, dang. I guess you didn't need me today. No, we didn't. We got the chairs set up without you. And you know dang well what time the chairs are going to get set up. Just show up. Just I'll do it, but I'm just a little, oh dang, I'm late again. That's what I call clever untimeliness. And you know you're doing it. That's the other thing. Now, the bottom 2, profound depths, liberalism and emotionalism. These are the 2 most dangerous escapes for the religious community in the 21st century. Mark my words. Liberalism and emotionalism. And I'm terrified by these. And I smell them a mile away. It's like that Charlie Brown cartoon about the pumpkin patch. He calls it the insincerity. Insincerity in the pumpkin patch. He could smell insincerity in the pumpkin patch. Well, I can smell these too. So I'll deal with emotionalism first. Emotionalism is when you think that the way you will deal with the profound depths of life is put yourself in a situation where you'll feel good. Now, I'm all for feeling good. Don't get me wrong. I like to be happy. I like the smell of roses, peonies. Peonies are wonderful. except I don't smell very well, but anyway, peonies and flowers. But the meaning of life is not finding a situation in which you are happy and comfortable all the time. And sometimes the great escape from what life at the deeps is calling you to do is to let yourself be uncomfortable for a moment. And sometimes it requires calling your friends to also be uncomfortable for a moment. Now, I'm not saying be mean-spirited. I am saying allow yourself to be willing to move beyond just having a good feeling about life. Because the self, when it is trying to make a decision about moving into the future, which is all that the self is ever doing, life is always saying, it's your move. And if you look for the most comfortable answer to your move, you'll miss. Now, the worst and the active way that lucid, aware, profound, deep people escape the depths of life in the 21st century, it's called liberalism. Not being liberal, liberalism. Liberalism, by that, I mean, ideological ambivalence and neglected reflection. Those are the two choices there. Ideological ambivalence means anything is good. No! It is not true that anything is good. There's a lot of stuff that's bad. And you got to call a spade a spade. You have to call me into question because I do not always do smart things. And it's your job to let me know, even when I think I'm doing smart things. And that's true within this community, and that's true on planet Earth. And just saying that anything goes is not appropriate in the 21st century. And liberalism has a tendency to say, well, sort of, do whatever you want to do. No, don't do whatever you want to do. I'm sorry. And neglected reflection. This is a hard one, but the problem is, today, most of the ways that we determine what is right and wrong, what is good and bad, are based on statements that come out of the 18th and 19th centuries, and we try to generalize those into the future, and either we do stupid logic, or we just say, I can't figure out why, so just by damn do it my way. And we have not taken the time as liberal, open-minded 21st century religious people to figure out how to connect our understanding of the depths of life with our real understanding about how the universe and life works. And that is very difficult to do because it's very easy to get trapped in old understandings. And how to do that thinking is the challenge. And that's why liberalism is the bane of the existence of the church in the 21st century. So that's my little map of, I did all of them. Hey, now, so what? How do we get beyond these escapes? Well, I want to just quickly say, First of all, each of us is responsible to the other for being able to say, I think you're escaping. I think that's an escape. I think that's an escape. It's okay. If you see me escaping, call, just let me know. That old thing about it's easier to see a splinter in your neighbor's eye than a log in your own is true. That's why you have to have friends who can say, well, anyway, my example of that, when I was getting ready to retire, there was an old man in our congregation, Alex Stosen, and he was a curmudgeon of an old guy, and curmudgeon. He was a curmudgeon of an old guy. But he found out, he was maybe 15 years older than I am, but he found out I was retiring. And he'd start, Nelson, well, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? Well, I don't know. Well, then he found out, and then I said, well, in 6 months. Then he started telling me, just remember, always, you got to learn to say, that's not my problem. At your work, say, that's not my problem. When they do 5-year planning, just skip the session because that's not your problem. You're not going to be there 5 years. And he always, every Sunday, that was his theme. How you coming on this, that's not my problem. And it haunted me, still haunts me. Well, that was good. He did me a favor. Because otherwise I'd still be worrying about IDI. I'm not worried about it. And we got to help each other make sense of our struggles. Because each of us are struggling with these things. You can count on that. Because every self is struggling with the assaults on its being. That you know. So let's help each other. Help each other. And the role of the religious in history is to answer the call of the future, to give honor and significance to the past, to bleed meaning out of the current situation, and to allow the depths of life to enter fully into the present. That's what you and I are called to do. So, let's do it. Now, and don't let each other escape. So now, I was kind of called into question about the conversations that we do in the round and last week, because I tried to do too much in the conversation. So, we're now going to take a vote about next week's conversation. So now here's the thing. I want you to take a few seconds, look at this chart, and decide. Are you more of the yellow top one escaping? Are you more trying to escape the pink, the brown, or the green? Which one of those four are you most trying to escape? And we're going to vote. Now, if you say, I'm not trying to escape any of them, then you're, well, it's like I hate the Myers-Briggs test. You know the Myers-Briggs test? You get I, J, K, F, T, whatever it is. So I had to take one. I was in the group and we all took it. And after we got done, I went up to the lady and I said, I hate these tests. I said, they don't mean anything. She said, you're probably an ENTJ. And she said, because that's what they all say. Well, that's what I was. So if you think I'm not escaping anything, then pick the yellow one because you're hiding. Okay, now, how many people think you're escaping the pink one as your major escape? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, wow. How many think you're escaping the brown one as your primary escape?
You can only choose one.
Yeah, you can only choose one. Okay. How many think you're escaping the green one as your primary source of escape? 2. And how many think you're escaping the yellow one? Oh, wow. Okay, we're pretty evenly divided here. Okay, good. Have fun. Stay out of trouble.